Colonel again. And by the way, yes, I actually did just wake up now at 2 p.m. Had a bit of a long night last night. So, I decided to start off today with the review of the CRKT Ripple. Sorry if I end up clearing my voice a lot today. Just getting over some really bad allergies. The past week and a half, really, I couldn't even speak clearly. And the few times that I could, you could still very easily tell that my voice was just not there at all. So even the days off that I did have, I couldn't have reviewed this thing if I wanted to, unless I was putting words up on the screen to tell you everything about this, which would have been very time consuming and very dull and boring, and no. But so, without further ado, the CRKT Ripple. This has one of the best detents in my collection, although it is not one of the best actions. It's actually fairly gritty, and just all around not exactly the best action. People have raved about how smooth and amazing IKBS is. Well, this is my first IKBS knife, and quite frankly, I was not impressed with it when I got my hands on this knife. It's very quick, it's reliable, but it's just not all that smooth. And this is well past broken in. I've opened it up, I've lubricated it, I've even replaced a couple of the ball bearings. After I took it apart and lost a few of the bearings, I just called up CRKT, asked for a couple more bearings, and they said, sure, we'll send them down, free of charge. So this has got a few new bearings in it. It's been lubed heavily. Still has not lost really any of the grit that it started off with. So that's really the first hit that I'm going to give this knife. Next hit is going to be the sharp flipper tab. It is fairly sharp, really pointy, and I don't like that. The flipper tab could easily be bigger. It could easily be not nearly as pointy. For crying out loud, they could have made the flipper tab straight instead of curving it. Because otherwise, the only other way that you can really do this without pain, and it doesn't open all the way. Otherwise, you just got to get used to a somewhat painful flipper tab. And for crying out loud, I've got a callus on my flipper finger, and it still is somewhat painful for me. So, yeah, not exactly a good thing there. I would prefer that it would be tip up, but then again, it's a gentleman's carry for me. I really only carry this thing on Sundays and days that I just don't feel like I'm going to need a knife all that much, so maybe on like my 4-hour work days, where I'm only planning on being on the floor for like 4 hours. Maybe those days I would carry this, because I just don't see myself actually needing this all that much. Because otherwise I might carry one of my ZTs or high-end Kershaws, or yeah, just something like that is what I'd probably be carrying for the day. But yeah, as far as the ergonomics on this thing go, it's really comfortable in hand. I really do like how this thing fits. It doesn't exactly fit like a glove, but it is fairly ergonomic and really comfortable. As far as the clip goes right here, that is a bit of a hot spot if you're really bearing down on it, like you're just really gripping it hard. This clip is going to irritate the living crap out of you. And if you choke up, then that actually goes away. But if you have even as big a hands as I do, then you don't want to really bear down when you're in the forward finger choil. Reason being is because that tip right there is pointy. And it's going to annoy the crap out of you, if not actually cut you if your hands are too big. Because it is fully sharpened all the way down to the bottom. Now let's see, what else? I did get the frame lock version with the bronze anodized aluminum instead of what was it? I think it was a stainless steel version with a liner lock that they had. But I almost went with that one if it wasn't for the fact that it was just too freaking small. I mean, for crying out loud, I could just barely get half of my pinky on it. And it was just like, are you kidding me? I can only grab that much. My pinky is struggling to grab something on here. And then the blade is just tiny. So yeah, I wasn't even about to deal with that. So I just ended up shelling out the extra cash and got this one instead. I ended up getting this when I was in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee a while ago. And I ended up going to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, which is pretty much knife mecca for a guy like me. And especially after you find out that that they do what's called price matching. They don't price match for something like Amazon or places like that, but places like Blade HQ and if even Walmart has a better price, then they'll actually add match Walmart. And so, yeah, if you plan on going to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, then make sure to let them know about the price matching, so that way you can actually get the exact knife that you want when you actually see it. So yeah, just to make sure to let them know about that, and that they will actually match your price at the register. Let's see, Very Sharp probably had the best steel out of all three knives that I got while I was down there, because I got 3 different knives. I've actually got all 3 of them here. I ended up getting the CRKT Obaki, which had the worst steel out of all 3 of them, but somehow had the best edge retention out of all of them. I got the CRKT Ripple, which had the best steel, with probably the worst edge retention out of all of them, but it by far had the best ergonomics. And I got the Lightning OTF, which had probably the middle-of-the-road steel, middle-of-the-road edge retention, probably worst ergonomics, but by far the most fun to play with. And my dog's went inside, so give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So, as I was saying, this one had probably the middle-grade steel, middle-of-the-road edge retention, middle-of-the-road ergonomics, but best fondling knife of all of them. This knife, however, I will not even attempt to review until I can actually carry it, due to having a concealed carry permit. So, this one you probably won't actually see a review of until about 6 or 8 months away from now, when I can actually carry it. Because I want to be able to tell you how it carries in the pocket, just what happens overall. So, yeah, expect that a few months from now. So, this knife, best steel out of all of them, worst edge retention out of all of them. Now, as far as what happened, basically, it was little more than this. For the most part, the edge just got junked up. Somehow, it seemed to be a magnet for things to get stuck to the edge, and just make it horrible at cutting. Particularly if you went through glue, then it would just get stuck right behind the edge, and then it would make it almost impossible for you to actually make the next cut. But even just simply going through simple cardboard, for whatever reason, it would really just get junked up and gunked up so badly. Even just through standard cardboard, I don't really know what happened. But also it chipped out fairly easily. The edge started to roll fairly easily. Basically, every 1 to 2 minutes, I was starting to put oil on the knife so that way I could get off the extra gunk. Because, by the way, just a little tip for you guys out there, if you get a lot of tape on your knives, a lot of sticky residue, just take some oil, whether it be olive oil, your honing oil, vegetable oil, some kind of oil. For crying out loud, you could actually even use peanut butter, because that actually has some kind of oil in it. Which peanut butter is what I started off with until I got the bright idea, hey, I can probably just use my honing oil. A lot cheaper, there's a lot more of it, and I don't have to worry about cleaning off my knife after I use it. Because otherwise, then I've got to worry about rancid peanut butter getting on my blade, and yeah, I just don't care for that. So, just started using honing oil, and I probably went through quite a bit of honing oil just cutting up a single box. And by the time that I was done, I had also stropped the knife for probably a good 3 minutes combined, maybe more, probably close to 5 actually. Because I had to strop the knife a lot just simply to get through the entire box. So, edge retention on this is horrible. It is not all that phenomenal. It is not the type of knife that I'd consider to be a hard use knife at all. It could definitely handle any kind of boxes that you put in the way of it. Probably heavy duty cardboard I would be a little bit more careful with, but I don't have any doubts that it could actually handle it. Granted that it's sharp enough. Now, if it's not sharp enough, then I would actually worry a little bit on the heavier cardboard. Now let's see. The tip, very fragile. I would not use this on really much of anything other than piercing cardboard, maybe blister packaging, stuff like that. I wouldn't really use it for much of anything else. I do like the crown spine on this. Just the added touch of it being a little bit smoother. It's fairly rounded off. I like that. The jimping is actually fairly adequate on this. The one that was on the $30 version was actually surprisingly weak, and I didn't like that at all. That was another reason why I gave up on that one. But, yeah, overall, I actually do, surprisingly enough, like this knife. Like I said, I don't carry it that often, but I do really like it. It's a blade shape that I don't usually get all that much. It's like a spear point. Probably the last spear point that I actually bought, let's see, that would probably be the Kershaw Skyline. And I ended up, I think I ended up selling that one. Yeah, I think I sold that one for $20. And I sold it to a really good friend of mine that he absolutely loves it. He doesn't carry it all that often because it is a fairly light use knife, but he really does like it. And so it ended up getting a really good home. So yeah, that would probably be the last spear point that I actually bought. But this one, I just love it a lot more. Yeah, let's see, what else is there to talk about? It has a fairly decent sized lanyard hole. You could easily fit some 550 paracord through here. You might want to gut it just in case it doesn't fit, because I haven't personally tried it myself. Here, let me actually pause video and try it, because yeah, let me. Okay, yeah, you're easily fitting some paracord through that hole. So yeah, you could easily pop a lanyard on here. The downside to fitting a lanyard on here is it wouldn't actually do much. Reason being, so you have a tip-down knife with a tip-up lanyard hole. Not really seeing the benefit of that unless you plan on not even utilizing the pocket clip at all, in which case, why don't you just take it off? Because that way you don't have the hot spot of the pocket clip in here, and then you can just simply have the lanyard actually sticking out and pull it out by that. So yeah, lanyard option wouldn't really work out all that well, but yeah, you could fit some 550 paracord easily on here without a problem. Let's see. I do like the fairly polished up pivot. That's actually fairly nice. I like that a lot. Here. Let me see if I can actually focus on that. Does it want to focus on anything today? Okay, well, apparently it doesn't seem to want to focus on a polished pivot, but yeah, it's actually fairly polished, and that's actually pretty nice. The clip itself is fairly polished as well, and compared to the $30 version, this is a much nicer satin finish. It's not quite as grind line heavy, which if there's too much of the grind line showing, I don't really care for it unless it's done well. Like for instance, the grind lines are really showing heavily on my CQC 7K, but that was an intentional thing. They intended it for it to look like that, and so that I can accept. Let's see, I don't have it right next to me, but my Spyderco Tenacious, that just simply looked unfinished, and I didn't care for the grind lines on that all that much. The satin on this, it definitely looks finished. If you're not looking at it too hard, then you're not even going to see grind lines, and it just looks like a smooth, flat piece of metal. And so, yeah, this is really nice. I do like it. So, here. There we go. But yeah, so overall, there we go. So yeah, overall, really great knife. I do like it a lot. I would really only limit it to light, maybe to medium light use. But yeah, so otherwise this is actually a really decent knife. I do like it, and really great for the price point even. It's just, for whatever reason, the steel seems to crap out fairly early for what it is. I don't have too much experience with VG10, which is what people compare it to a lot, so I don't know just how well VG10 usually holds up, but the steel on this doesn't seem to want to hold up as well as a steel of this caliber probably should. But other than that, like I said, really great knife. Do like it. It is sturdy. No blade play at all. Haven't really seen any blade play in it since I got it. And I think that I might have had to tighten it down once since the day that I bought it. Otherwise, really great. And I highly recommend it to anybody looking for a medium light EDC. So, as always, YouTube, stay safe.